Hello my friend, welcome back to my 4-Star School YouTube channel. In today's lesson, we are going to talk about the GetX controller. We have learned GetX reactive state management and simple state management in our last lesson. So if you are new here, feel free to reach out to my channel page and you'll find a GetX tutorial for beginners. Include the raw management, state management, and also you can find a Flutter tutorial for beginners and Dart tutorial for beginners. After you finish that, you can watch this Flutter UI from scratch tutorial. So don't forget to subscribe to my channel, sum up my content, and open the notification so you won't miss out the latest Flutter tutorial. And I will going to make a complete Flutter app after we finish this GetX tutorial, and we're going to create the app using this GetX package. Okay, without further ado, let's get started. Okay, in today's lesson, we are focused on the life cycle of this GetX controller. So let's back to our Visual Studio Code. Here I write some code and I will walk through of those examples and give you explanation how those code works. So first, as you see in our main.dar, I just return our GetX controller example, and this is this one. In view.dar, we have our GetX controller example. First, we're going to return this get material app, and then we have this scaffold. Inside scaffold, we have this app bar. As you see here, the app bar contains this GetX controller, this text widget, and after that we have this body attribute. We have this center widget, which conclude this GetX widget only show the count of variable. And after that, we have this floating action button. Basically, we'll increase this number here. And also, we have this controller.dar. And here we define a controller which extends the GetX controller. So back to this Mindmap. First, if you're going to use the GetX controller, you must create your custom class which extends the GetX controller. So in here, we create this controller class which extends the GetX controller. And in here, this controller can be anything. Like the class name can be anything. It could be my controller, right? And so for symbol, I just make this controller, but you can have a custom name. Okay. And after that, we declare a variable. This count variable, we make it observable. The reason I make it observable because in here we're using this GetX, right? Remember in last lesson, if you're going to use the OBX widget or this GetX widget, inside the variable must observable. So we're using this observable. If you using the normal variable, you can use this GetBuilder. So first we're going to use this observable variable. After that, we can change to normal variable, and we can achieve the same result. So here I declare this observable counter, and I create this increment method which increase this variable every time when I click this button. And also I have this clear counter method which will clear this count when I dispose this controller, usually onClose this method. And don't worry, I will talk this later. So first, let's focus on this counter and this increment method, and back to our view.dar, and we separate our logic and the UI. So for the UI, we just simple display this count variable. We initial our controller, right? And for this controller, we can access to its count variable. We could using this controller.count. You see when I move my mouse, you will see this count actually are as integer type. So we need to use this dot value to get it the integer type, right? And we display on the screen, and we have this floating action button. When I press this button, this get will find this controller and call this increment method. The reason I can use this syntax because I put this controller into the memory. I can just click this one and you will see the count increase. Okay, that's back to the Mindmap. And next I'm going to talk about the life cycle of this GetX controller. So for its life cycle, and we have 3 methods inside the GetX controller. So the first one would be onInit method, another one would be onReady, and last one would be onClose. So back to Visual Studio Code in this controller.dar. So by default, if you create this controller in line 24, right, we create this controller and this onInit method will be called. After that, this onReady will be called. And if I remove this page with this controller associate, and the onClose method will be called. So here, let's open our emulator, and I will clear this console, and I click this restart button. So just watch these careful. Okay, you see, first we're going to see this GetMaterial controller because we're using this GetMaterial app. This GetMaterial controller usually will handle some route or theme. So in line 24, we create our own controller. So that's this line, we create our controller, and this onInit method will be called, and this onReady will be called as well. Those two methods, right? Because you call this initial method. Back to this view. So another way to make these, you can using this OBX widget, as you see. In this OBX, we didn't have this initial attribute, so we cannot create this controller. But we have another way to do it. So we can, using this line of statement, we declare a final variable, and we're using this get.put, and we put this controller, and then we can, using this variable, also in this floating action button, we can find this controller because they are still in the memory. So we could save that. We're going to restart our application, and you will see because it's outside of this GetMaterial app. So first it will create the instance of our controller, right? So the controller on it has been called. After it load into the screen, this onReady will be called. So we could press this button. The whole functionality still works. I will talk about this get.put in pendants management tutorial. So let's comment out this one, and we're using the first approach, which is GetX, and we need to comment this out, and we save again. We may need to restart this application. Okay, we restart this application, and let's go back to this controller.dar. In this onInit method, as you see, we have lots of specific callback we can use inside our onInit. And so the first one will be ever. And let's back to Visual Studio Code. The ever, this method will call every time when this counter change, as you see. So by default, this count will be a 0 when I press this button, and this debug print will print on our console every time I click this button. Okay, and this time I need to restart our application because I want this onInit method called again. If I press this hot reload, it won't call this onInit method because this controller already load into the memory. Right, you see when I click this one, nothing changed, right? But when I click this restart, this onInit method will called. You see our controller onInit been called, so I can press the button and you will see this counter variable will show on our console. So first I press 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and you will see we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So every time this variable change, I can print out its value. And if you have a multiple variable you want to watch, you can use this one, which is called everAll, this method, and you actually receive this list of variable. So here I just put this count variable. So basically you do the same function as this ever. So let's restart this application. Okay, let's click this button and you will see this print statement print 5 times because I click 5 times. So this is for this ever and everAll. And another one is this once, for the once. So let's comment out this and comment out this, and we need to restart our application. The once will call only the first time when this variable change. So for example, initial value will be 0 and I click once, the value will change to 1, right? And when I click again, the number change, but the print statement didn't print anything. You will see because it only called once. So depends on your business logic, you can use this kind of function. So let's comment out this one. So the third one would be a debounce. We need to restart this application. So for the debounce, suppose you have this search bar, and when user search something, you want to trigger this search to fetch your backend API after user finish typing. Right? You can use this debounce. We'll wait, like for example here, I only wait 0.8 second, and you can wait like 5 seconds or something more when user typing. So let's restart this one. Okay, so when I first click this one, it didn't print anything. It will print after 1000 milliseconds. So let's see. Click this very fast. You see it will only print when number change to A. Right. Let's check again. 15, right? Because I press very fast. You will wait for 1000 milliseconds. Okay, let's comment out this one. So the next one would be this interval. This one is different. This one it will ignore all changes within 1000 milliseconds. So let's restart our application. Okay, so let's click this button you'll see the interval. We have 1 and 3, right? And it was 7. So it will ignore all the changes within 1000 milliseconds. So try to try those examples on your own so you can understand it more. Okay, let's comment out this one and we save. So let's back to our view.dar, and we are using this GetX, which is reactive state management in this case. And as we mentioned in our last video, we have a simple state management. So I'm going to uncomment this out. So we're going to change our controller a little bit. So we could using this simple state management. So back to this controller, we're going to comment out this observable variable, and we uncomment out this normal variable, right? And we're going to comment out this one. And since we have this normal variable, we need to increase its value every time we call this increment. And after that, we need to call this update method. Remember, we need to extend this GetX controller, then we can access to this update method in the simple state management in GetX. So we're going to comment out this one and open this one, and we can save. And we're going to restart our application. Okay, you see we finished restart application, and we could test it by click this button. The number will increase, so it works. And we change this reactive state management to the simple state management by changing this variable to normal type, right? And using this update method to update the variable. So this is this GetBuilder, how to use the GetBuilder. So remember, if you want to use this GetBuilder, you must using a simple state management. If you want using the reactive state management, you're going to use GetX or this OBX. Okay, let's back to our Mindmap. So next I'm going to talk about this unique ID using this GetBuilder. So let's back to Visual Studio Code. So for example, in here, we have one counter, right? And we can create another counter number. And since we already initialize our controller, so I can remove this one. We are using the same controller in this case, but we're giving this one an ID. So for example, this would be counter 1, right? And this I giving another ID, would be counter 2. And in our controller, we're going to comment out this one and uncomment out this. So let's save. We may need to restart our application. So we have a 2 counter, right? And we're using this GetBuilder. We have 2 counter, and when I press this button, only first counter number will increase. As you see here, I only update this first counter. So let's see. The second counter won't change, right? You see, because I'm using this unique ID to update this widget. And another one is you can using some condition check. For example, here, if this counter is greater than 10, I will stop update. So let's restart our application. And when I click this button, so we could increase from 0 to 9. When you reach to 9 and I click again, the number won't change because we have this condition here. So we will update only when this count number is less than 10. Okay, this is an example of how you can use this unique ID to update only specific widget you want to update. Okay, so next one I'm going to talk about this onClose life cycle. So I dropped this picture and I will walk through of this picture and explain to you the life cycle of this onClose. So back to our Visual Studio Code. I'm going to make a little bit change of this view.dar, and here I'm going to comment out these and comment out this button. Okay, let's save, and you will see we have this detail page button, and I'm using this get.to, and I will navigate to this detail page. So in our detail page, we have this GetBuilder. We have this counter 1 and counter 2. So basically, it's the same stuff we talked before. We are using this simple state management. Let's check. You'll see we can back to our previous page. So here I don't need this second one, so I can comment out this one. And we're going to click our console. So back to this Mindmap. So first we are in our home page, and we're going to restart our application so you can see the console clear. So first we have this get material controller load into memory, because we are in this page which is this GetX controller example page, and we're using this get material app. So we load this get material controller into the memory. So it's this one, and then we click the button which will navigate us to this detail page. As you see, we have this related button, and when I click, I will navigate to the detail page. So let's click it, and you'll see this console. We navigate to the row which is detail page, and we have this controller has been created and also initialized. So back to this detail page.dar, and so we manually put this controller. Okay, I think we could comment out this one because we manually put this controller. Okay, so let's restart this again. Okay, let's click this button, and we navigate to this detail page, and the controller load into the memory because we're using this one, using this get.put. As you see, we back using this get.to, we load this controller into the memory. So if we have another page, we're using this get.to into our next page. We could using this get.find controller to find our previous page controller, because this time this controller didn't remove from our raw stack. We could still access to this controller. However, if you're using get.off, it will replace your counter row, right, with your next page. So this means you need to manually put this controller again, because you move this controller out of memory. So you need to put this again, and you can find it using this get.find controller. So let's back to this console. So if I click this go back button, our controller will remove from our memory the on delete will code. So let's see, when I click go back button, and you'll see this controller on delete code, and you will delete from the memory, and we have this onClose has been called, right, and this clear count has been called. As you see here, this onClose has been called because our controller now moved from the memory. Okay, so now I hope you have a clear understanding of how to use this GetX controller in this GetX package. Okay, I think that's all of today's lesson. We talk about the GetX controller. So for the next video, I'm going to talk about the dependence management in GetX. So don't forget to subscribe to my channel, sum up my content, and open the notification so you won't miss out the latest Flutter tutorial. Thanks for watching. I will see you in next video.